Hello, everybody. This is Jimmy, and you're reading with Jimmy. Today we're beginning Faust by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. This is a drama. This is a play, and we picked Bayard Taylor's translation in order to do this. So welcome, everybody. We're going to start with the Prelude and the Prologue before we actually begin the play. Ready? Hold your horses. Before we even begin the play, I have something to say, and I want to tell you why Jimmy chose Bayard Taylor's translation of Faust. Because as you know, or you may not know, there's many translations, and unless you read the original German, which Jimmy doesn't, even though he studied German, we're going to read this in English, and we chose Bayard Taylor's translation of Faust for a reason. So I want to give you a quick note on that. Bayard was born around he translated this in 1870 and 71, and you're going to right away say, well, Jimmy, can't you find a more modern translation? I could, but there's reason why I chose this. Many modern translations, they aim for smooth, natural English. But Taylor took a different approach, which is why Jimmy prefers this. He believed the English language should be bent to match Goethe's original German music, not the other way around. In other words, he bent the language to Goethe. He didn't bend Goethe to the language. And Jimmy believes in that in his business. You bend the software to your will. And I've always believed in that simple principle that you bend the tool to your objective. It's hard to do. You don't really bend your objective to the tool. In other words, you don't make excuses. So Faust is not just a story. It's simply everybody knows it's about to deal with the devil, isn't it, Jimmy? Yes, it is. But it's not just that. It's not just that. Just like all classical literature, right? We read to learn how other people lead their lives and how to lead our own. It's the same thing with Faust. It's not just a story about a deal with the devil. There's much more. And in this case, it's a poem of structure, rhythm, and form. It's really a literary symphony. Jimmy, what the hell are you talking about? I'm talking about the English language, ladies and gentlemen. The English language, which day after day, Jimmy sees it, you see it, it rapidly fades away. Suddenly, the most famous word these days is, let's find a pathway. What are they talking about? Let's find a pathway. To change the meter is to change the experience. And in a work like this, to change the experience is to change the soul of the piece. That's why I picked Bayard Taylor's translation, because I think he gets it. He gets it. It's the same rhythms that Goethe intended. A bridge to literary history. Taylor's translation is not just accurate. It's historical. The 1870 version was a major cultural moment. When he wrote that and then it got translated, it's like anything else that gets translated. It's cultural moments. It represents how the English-speaking world first fully encountered Goethe's masterpiece. Reading it today connects us to the moment, to the century of readers who approach Faust as something serious and demanding and profound, which it is. If any of you saw the movie Tombstone, there's a great scene in there where they're actually playing this out on stage, where Ike Clanton, is watching. They're watching Faust on stage. So if you haven't seen the movie Tombstone, Kurt Russell, see it. So in many ways, the Victorian bridge to the Enlightenment mind of Goethe, the commitment to the whole work. Another reason I chose Taylor, it's complete. Many modern translations shorten Faust. They avoid part 2 of Faust, which is dense and symbolic. Some of you, when we start reading this, I believe it's 7 parts. I'll double check that. Maybe more. You're going to get, I can't take it anymore, Jimmy. I'm leaving, which is fine. I hope you don't do that, because I'm going to try to read it in rhythmic qualities. You understand? But if you get tired of it, I understand. Like now, you're probably just fast forward if you're tired of me talking. But don't. He commits to the entire work from beginning to end in a consistent poetic voice. And so did Jimmy. Because the meaning of Faust, it's not in a single scene. There's a lot of scenes in here, beautiful scenes. I remember you'll be reading about the poodle, which is the devil. He comes at Faust as a poodle, a black poodle. And I remember when I was a kid reading classic tales. They used to have comic books called classic tales, and they would bring all this great literature in the form of comic books for children, which Jimmy was. I still remember this black poodle in this classic tale. And that's why when I was reading again, and I was reading about the poodle, it brought back this flood of memories. Hearing the drama, when we read this out loud, which I do, I read all the classics out loud for you. The reason I do that is because something happens. We hear the structure of Goethe. We hear the structure of Herman Melville. We hear the structure of all these great authors that are on my website. So in the prologue, for example, the archangels speak in ordered musical lines. There's archangels, the harmony. Mephistopheles is sharper, disruptive, more controversial. So before the story even begins on Earth, you hear the tension between order and chaos. And isn't that the tension going on nowadays, ladies and gentlemen? There's tension between order and chaos. So it's not an accident. This is poetry doing its work. And why this version fits Faust is that Taylor's language is formal. Sometimes it's even rigid. You're going to say, why the hell did he choose that word? Well, there's reasons why he did what he did and why we chose Taylor's translation. It serves the character of Faust. Faust is a man who's exalted. He's exhausted all fields of knowledge. He's studied his whole life. He's a philosopher. He's a lawyer. He's a medical doctor. He's a theologian. This is the smartest guy in the world, and he still feels empty. The weight of language, when we hear Faust talk, reflects the weight of that struggle. It really does if you listen closely to the language. It's kind of like, they debate this a lot. Is it a play? Is it a poem? It's both. It's really both. And the weight of the language reflects the weight of the struggle. That's why we chose Taylor's translation. This is not light reading, which means it's not for the faint of heart. It really isn't. But I promise you, if you stick with me, you'll get an appreciation of the English language that you don't have now. I promise you that. This is a monumental poetic drama. And it's a search for meaning. And ladies and gentlemen, I know there are some of you out there searching for meaning. I look for meaning all the time. What does this mean? What does that mean? It asks something from listeners in return. It asks you to pay attention. And the journey matters. By choosing Taylor's version, I'm committing to the full arc, the whole thing of the story. No shortcuts. No, let's think of the modern reader and try to dumb it down. None of that stuff. Ambition, failure, redemption, responsibility. I stopped short of the final. They stopped short, but we're not going to stop short. We are not stopping short. Because whatever Faust is, it's not a fragment. It's not a piece that somebody found, published it, and said, hey, look at this. This is great. This is a complete journey, just like life itself is a complete journey. And you can't experience a journey in just one day, can you? You can't experience your life's journey by just one incident. Your life is a thread of incident after incident after incident. It's being sewn together before your very eyes. Final thought. As you listen to me read, don't just follow the story. Listen to the language. Listen to the rhythm. And listen to the shifts in tone. And I will do my best to deliver this version to you and the poetry. So enjoy the classic about making a deal with the devil. Jimmy loves these stories. He was fascinating as a young man with deals with the devil. Daniel Webster, all these things. And be careful what you wish for. Ladies and gentlemen, Faust. Prelude at the theater. So we have a manager, we have a dramatic poet, and we have someone called Merry Andrew. Manager. Ready? You two, who oft a helping hand have lent in need and tribulation, come, let me know your expectation of this, our enterprise in German land. Remember, this is German, right? I wish the crowd to feel itself well treated, especially since it lives and lets me live. The posts are set, the booth and boards completed, and each awaits the banquet I shall give. Already there, with curious eyebrows raised, they sit sedate and hope to be amazed. I know how one of the people's tastes may flatter, and yet here a huge embarrassment I feel. What they are accustomed to is no great matter, but then alas, they've read an awful deal. How shall we plan that all be fresh and new? Huh? Important matter, yet attractive too, for it's my pleasure to behold them surging, when to our booth the current sets apart, and with tremendous oft-repeated urging, squeeze onward through the narrow gate of grace. By daylight even, they push and cram in to reach the seller's box, a fighting host. And as for bread, around a baker's door in famine, to get a ticket, they break their necks almost. The miracle can only work the poet on men so various. Now, my friend, pray show it. Do you understand what he's talking about? Right? He's welcoming people to the theater. So here comes the poet. Speak not to me of yonder multi masses, whom but to see puts out the fire of song. Hide from my view the surging crowd that passes, and in its whirlpool forces us along. No, lead me where some heavenly silence glasses the purer joys that round the poet throng. Do you see how beautiful this language is? Let your imagination hear the words, and let your imagination take those words and form the picture in your mind. This is the poet talking, saying, I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to be bothered by a lot of people. Come on. What I do is heavenly. So don't, right? The purer joys that round the poet throng, where love and friendship still divinely fashion the bonds that bless, the wreaths that crown his passion. Every utterance from the depths of feeling the timid lips have stammeringly expressed. Now, failing now, perchance, success revealing, gulps the wild moment in its greedy breast. Or oft, reluctant ears its warrant sealing, its perfect stature stands at last confessed. What dazzles for the moment spends its spirit, and what's genuine shall posterity inherit. You'll see Jimmy highlighting some things here, which we will analyze, but when I highlight things, it's important to stop me, you can stop the recording for a moment and ponder, think about these things. What dazzles for the moment spends its spirit. Shiny new things, right? Gone. But what is genuine, posterity inherits. Isn't that true? Mary Andrew, posterity? Don't name that word to me. If I should choose to preach posterity, where would you get contemporary fun? You see, there's a different point of view coming up here. Mary Andrew, right? I don't want to hear about posterity. I'm in for it. I want the now. I want to be happy now, right? That men will have it. There's no blinking. A fine young fellow's presence, to my thinking, is something worth to everyone. If you read Ralph Waldo Emerson on my website called Self-Reliance, it echoes this sentiment right here. A fine young fellow's presence, to my thinking, is worth something to everyone, who genially his nature can outpour. Takes from the people's moods, no irritation. The wider circle he acquires, the more securely works his inspiration. Well then, pluck up heart and give a sterling coin. Let fancy be her attendants fitted. Sense, reason, sentiment, and passion. They all join. But have a care, lest folly be omitted. The manager speaks up. Chiefly, enough of incident prepare. They come to look, and they prefer to stare. Reel off a host of threads before their faces so that they gape in stupid wonder. And then, by sheer diffusiveness, you have won their graces. Talking about how to entertain the crowds that come to the theater. By sheer diffusiveness, you have won their graces and are at once most popular of men. Only by mass you touch the mass. For any will finally himself his bit select. Who offers much brings something unto many, and each goes home content with the effect. And if you've a piece, why, just in pieces give it. A hash, a stew, will bring success, believe it. It's easily displayed and easy to invent. What's the use of a whole compactly to present? You hearers pick and pluck as soon as they receive it. The poet says, You do not feel how such a trade debases, how ill it suits the artist proud and true. The botching work each fine pretender traces is, I perceive, a principle with you. The manager says, such a reproach not in the least offends. I don't care what you're saying. A man who some result intends must use the tools that best are fitting. Reflect, soft wood is given to you for splinting, and then observe for whom you write. If one comes bored, exhausted quite, another satiated, leaves the banquet's tapers, and worst of all, full many a wight. Wight is a person specified, especially one regarded as unfortunate. Is fresh from reading the daily papers. He's talking about the type of people that show up for the play. Idly to us as they come, as to a masquerade. Mere curiosity, their spirits warming. The ladies with themselves and with their finery aid, without a salary their parts performing. What dreams are yours in high poetic places? You're pleased, forsooth, full houses to behold? Draw near and view your patrons' faces. The half are coarse, the other half are cold, and one, when the play is out, goes home to cards. Doesn't care. A wild night on a wench's breast another chooses. Why should you rack, you poor foolish bards? For ends like this, the gracious muses, I tell you, give but more, evermore, they ask. No more, give me more. Thus shall you hit the mark of gain and glory. Seek to confound your auditory. To satisfy them is a task. What ails you now? Are you suffering or pleasure? The poet says, "Go, find yourself a more obedient slave. What shall a poet that which nature gave the highest right, supreme humanity, forfeit so wantedly to swell your treasure? Whence o'er the heart his empire is free. The elements of life, how conquers he? It's not his heart accord, urged outward far and dim, to wind the world in unison with him. When on a spindle, spun to endless distance by nature's listless hand, the thread is twirled, and the discordant tones of all existence in sullen jangle are together hurled." Isn't that beautiful language? By nature's listless hand, the thread is twirled, and the discordant tones of all existence in sullen jangle are together hurled. Who then the changeless orders of creation divides and then kindles into rhythmic dance? Who brings the one to join the general ordination where it may throb in grandest consonance? Who bids the storm to passion stir the bosom, in brooding souls the sunset burn above? Who scatters every fairest April blossom along the shining path of love? Who braids the noteless leaves to crowns, recruiting desert with fame and actions every field? And who makes Olympus sure, the gods uniting the might of man, as in the bard reveal? Mary Andrew says, these fine forces in conjunction. And I know what you're thinking, ladies and gentlemen. Why is he reading this if this is about to deal with the devil? Language. So these fine forces in conjunction propel the high poetic function. As in a love adventure they might play. You know, you meet by accident, you feel, you stay, and by degrees your heart is tangled. Bliss grows a space, and then its course is jangled. You're ravished, quite. And then comes a touch of woe, and there's a neat romance, completely air, you know. Let us then such a drama give. Grasp the exhaustless life that all men live. Each share therein, though few may comprehend. Wherever you touch, there's interest without end. In motley pictures, little light, much error, and of truth a glimmering might. Thus the best beverage is supplied, whence all the world is cheered and edified. And then at your play, behold, the fairest flower of youth collect, to hear the revelation. Each tender soul, with sentimental power, sucks melancholy food from your creation. And now in this, now that, the leaven works, for each beholds what is his bosom lurks. For each beholds what in his bosom lurks. We see what we want to see. They are still moved at once to weeping or to laughter, and they still wonder at your flights. Enjoy the show that they see, because a mind once formed is never suited after. One yet in growth will ever grateful be. The poet says, then give me back that time of pleasures, while yet in joyous growth I sang, when, like a fount, the crowding measures uninterrupted gushed and sprang. Then bright mist veiled the world before me. In opening buds a marvel woke, as I the thousand blossoms broke. Which every valley richly bore me, I nothing had, and yet enough for youth, joy in illusion, ardent thirst for truth. Give unrestrained that old emotion, the bliss that touched the verge of pain, the strength of hate, love's deep devotion. Oh, give me back my youth again. Mary Andrew says, youth, my good friend, you certainly require. When foes in combat sorely press you, when lovely maids in fond desire hang on your bosom and caress you, when from the hard-won goal the wreath beckons afar and the race is waiting, when after dancing out your breath you pass the night in dissipating. But that familiar harp with soul to play, with grace and bold expression, and toward a self-erected goal to walk with many a sweet digression, this, aged sirs, belongs to you. And we no less revere you for that reason. Age childish makes, they say, but it's not true. We're only genuine children still in the age of season. The manager says, these words you've bandied are sufficient. Okay, we're done talking. Deeds that I prefer. I want deeds that I prefer to see, and compliments you're both proficient, but might while most useful be, what need to talk of inspiration? It's no companion of delay. If poetry be your vocation, well then let poetry your will obey. Full well you know what we're here and what is wanting. The crowd for strongest drink is panting, and such forthwith I have to brew. What's left undone today, tomorrow will not do. So waste not a day in vain discretion. With resolute, courageous trust, seize every possible impression and make it firmly your possession. And then work on, because you must, upon our German stage, and you know you will, each tries his hand at what he will. So take of traps and scenes your fill, and all you find, but be sure to show it. And use both the great and the lesser heavenly lights. Squander the stars in any number. Beasts, birds, trees, rocks, all the lumber, fire, water, darkness, day and night. Thus, in our booth contracted here, the circle of creation will appear and move as we deliberately impel from heaven across the world to hell. Before I start the prologue, I want you to think about the language. I really liked reading that. And you may say, Jimmy, I don't know what you're talking about. Go back and play this again. Follow with me on the words, extract from the words into your imagination, and just enjoy the language. Ladies and gentlemen, of course you don't have to. Of course. You could just buy the Cliff Notes. That's not going to change you. That's not going to give you a reason to see how other people lead their lives and how to lead your own. That's not classical literature. Every word here, every word that Taylor translated from the German means something. This is gorgeous language. It's like reading Shakespeare when you read Shakespeare with Jimmy. There's plays on my website, Macbeth, Hamlet. That language means something. If you read Hamlet with me, I coined the term word fencing, because Hamlet is just a brilliant guy, and so was the guy who put the words in his mouth, Shakespeare. That's what we're seeing here with Goethe. He's just I wish I could read German. Maybe you wish you could read German. Maybe there's a German out there that read the original German. But I'm telling you that Taylor's translation is just awesome, awesome. Let's go to the prologue. So that was the preface, right? Preface. Now we're in the prologue. The Lord, the heavenly host. Afterwards, Mephistopheles, that's the devil. And then there's 3 archangels that come forward. Got it? So now we're in heaven. Imagine the stage in heaven. Raphael, that's one of the archangels. The sun orb sings in emulation. Mid brother spheres his ancient round, his path predestined through creation. He ends with step of thunder sound. The angels from his visage splendid draw power, whom measure none can say. The lofty works, uncomprehended, are bright as on the earliest day. Another archangel, Gabriel. And swift beyond convincing, the splendor of the world goes around. Day's Eden brightness still reliving, the awful night's intense profound. The ocean tides in foam are breaking, against the rocks deep bases hurled, and both the spheric race partaking eternal swift and onward world. Another archangel, Michael. And rival storms abroad are surging from sea to land and from land to sea, a chain of deepest action forging round all in wrathful energy. These flames of desolation blazing before the thunder's crashing way. Yet, Lord, thy messengers are praising the gentle movement of thy day. Three of them together. Though still by them uncomprehended, from these the angels draw their power, and all thy works, sublime and splendid, are bright as in creation's hour. It's kind of a nice introduction, huh? Uh-oh, here comes the devil, Mephistopheles. Since thou, O Lord, design to approach again, and ask us how we do, in manner kindness, and heretofore to meet myself wert fain, among thy menials now my face thou findest. Pardon this true. I cannot follow after with lofty speech. I can't say much beyond these angels, right? Though by them scorned and spurned, they don't like the devil. My pathos is a quality that evokes pity and sadness. My pathos certainly would move thy laughter, if thou hadst not all merriment unlearned. Of suns and worlds I've nothing to be quoted. How men torment themselves is all I've noted. Pay attention. That's what he's saying. How men torment themselves is all I've noted. I haven't seen anything great here, Lord, right? The little God, oh, the world, sticks to the same old way and is as whimsical as on creation's day. Don't forget what happened at creation, right? Adam and Eve. Life somewhat better might content him, but for the gleam of heavenly light which thou hast lent him, he calls it reason, and thence his powers increased, to be far beastlier than any beast, saving thy gracious presence, he to me a long-legged grasshopper appears to be, that springing flies and flying springs, and in the grass the same old ditty sings. Would he still lay among the grass he grows in? Each bit of dung he seeks to stick his nose in. I'd say that the devil doesn't think much of man, does he? Especially that line where I highlighted reason, thence his power increased to be beastlier than any beast. In other words, reason actually makes man worse than any beast. Do you believe that? I certainly believe that. The Lord speaks. Hast thou then nothing more to mention? Comes ever thus with ill intention? Find nothing right on earth eternally? In other words, that's it? You're finding nothing? The devil, Mephistopheles. No, Lord, I find things there, still as bad as they can be. Man's misery, even to pity, moves my nature. I've scarce the heart to plague that wretched creature. Sorry. So what's the devil saying? Oh, no, they're still as bad as they can be. Man's misery, even to pity, moves my nature. He pities mankind. And I scarcely have the heart to plague the wretched creature. The Lord says, you know Faust? Mephistopheles, Dr. Faust? The Lord, my servant. Yeah, him. Mephistopheles, forsooth. He serves you in strange devices. No earthly meat or drink the full suffices. His spirits ferment far aspireth. Half conscious of his frenzied crazed unrest, the fairest stars from heaven he requireth. He's asking for the world, and from earth the highest raptures and the best, and all the near and far that he desireth fails to subdue the tumult of his breast. He's just never satisfied, the Lord says. Well, though still confused, his service unto me, I soon shall lead him to a clearer morning. See, he's not the gardener. Even while bud his tree, both flower and fruit, the future years adorning. No, don't gardeners see the possibilities? Mephistopheles says, what will you bet? Ha ha! What will you bet? There's still a chance to gain him, if unto me full leave you give. Gently my road to train him. You see what he's asking here for, right? He's making a wager that give me leave. Let me do what I need to do, and I can get him. I can get him. The Lord says, as long as he on earth shall live, and so long I make no prohibition, while man's desires and aspirations stir, he cannot choose but to err. He's going to make a mistake. Mephistopheles, my thanks. I find the dead no acquisition, and never cared to have them in my keeping. I much prefer the cheeks, where ruddy blood is leaping, and when the corpse approaches, close my house. I don't want dead people. It goes with me as with the cat and the mouse. So the Lord says, enough, devil. What thou hast asked is granted. Turn off this spirit from his fountainhead to trap him, and let thy snares be planted, and him with thee be downward led. And then stand abashed when thou art forced to say that a good man, through obscurest aspirations, has still an instinct of the one true way. Very important what he's saying here. Read it again. Go ahead, right? Tempt them, trap them, do what you got to do, but stand abashed. In other words, stand surprised when thou art forced to say, what's he saying Mephistopheles would say? That a good man, through obscurest aspiration, has still an instinct of the one true way. Mephistopheles, agreed, there it is, but it's a short probation. About my bet, I feel no trepidation. If I fulfill my expectation, you'll let me triumph with a swelling breast. Dust shall he eat, and with a zest as did a certain snake, my near retaliation. Remember Genesis, right? Dust, the snake. We'll review that when we review the analysis and the interpretation. The Lord says, therein thou art free according to thy merits. The like of thee have never moved my hate. Of all the bold denying spirits, the waggish knave least trouble doth create. Man's active nature, flagging, seeks too soon the level. Unqualified repose he learns to crave. And whence willingly the comrade him I gave, who works, excites, and must create as devil. But you, God's sons in love and duty, enjoy the rich and ever-living beauty, creative power that works eternal schemes, clasp you in bonds of love, relaxing never, and what in wavering aspiration gleams, fix it in its place with thoughts that stands forever. The heavens close and the archangels separate. I like it. Mephistopheles is alone on stage now, and he says, yeah, I like at times to hear the ancients' words and have to care to be most civil. It's really such a noble Lord, so humanly to gossip with the devil. That was the preface and the prologue to Faust by Goethe. I want you to learn more by reading with Jimmy. You can read this again with me. You can read the next Act 1, because we're going to read Act 1 next. And when we're done, you can read the analysis. And be sure to visit and read other classics. Remember, we read to learn how others lead their lives. Well, Jimmy, what the heck can I learn from just reading this preface and prologue? Well, you can learn that, first of all, the beauty of English language translating from a German play, right? Poem play. You can learn that, good and evil. Do you believe in good and evil? Do you believe you're striving? Because we're facing a character here who studied. He's very smart, and he's still not satisfied. Are you satisfied? Is there anyone out there satisfied? Jimmy at readingwithjimmy.com. That's my email. Jimmy at readingwithjimmy.com. Send me if you're satisfied, I want to know it. Because I don't know anybody I've ever met, ever, that's satisfied. Really satisfied. Thanks for coming by. Look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great day, and be careful what you wish for. You don't want to be doing deals with the devil.